set a day for it. He's like, it's got to be the start of the month. Let me just finish this month being an alcoholic, and then I'll come around. All right, let's begin. Chesties, it's unbelievable, man. How's that stuff happen though? That's the stuff I still need more information on, the DDoS stuff, because for it to always happen at like the most inopportune times, that fucks with my head, dude. Yeah, Josh, nobody cares what you're saying. I don't know if you got that by the fact that we ignored your first childish attempts. Like, we don't care. You can just stand off in your little corner. All right, let's go ahead and get started then. We got 10 starters, about to be lit. Let's go. All right, so these are the pitching upgrades for the roster update coming out on July 1st. We've got 10 starting pitchers today. I left relievers alone. I kind of looked at the last 2 weeks and the last month because I think with relievers you got to kind of look at a rolling month, because they need more of a, they're not going to build up a big sample in 2 weeks that you really want to take major strides with. If they're a couple blown saves, 2 blown saves in a 2 week span can give you like a 9 ERA even if you had like 7 other outings where you didn't give up any runs and you struck out 2 every time. So you got to be careful with that, and they did some good reliever updates recently. So basically, just didn't find anything in there that I felt was a must. They're still going to update some relievers. I'm fairly certain of it, but I didn't see any that I felt like I had to get out there for y'all to really figure out. All right, so let's start at the top here and jump right in. Again, we got 10 starting pitchers. We'll start with Johnny Cueto, somebody that's been being asked about quite a bit for a while. We projected an upgrade for him a few weeks back. He got it, and since his 6.3 upgrade, his June 3rd upgrade, he's got 6.9 Ks per 9, 2.4 walks, 0.3 homers, and 6.9 hits. So the strikeout's pretty weak, right? 6.9, that's pretty pedestrian. But the 6.9 hits, that's elite. That's excellent stuff right there. So we're gonna get into these attributes, and we're gonna put a small upgrade on his hits per 9 because it's really good. And I feel like they could realistically go up to about 3 points here. The reason I kept it a little bit tepid with just the 1 point is because his last 2 years weighing on it keep it up a little bit high. But this year he's been great, and I think it will continue because of where he plays, which actually leads me into the next upgrade as well. His homer per 9 that I bumped up to 74. He's leading baseball with a 0.3 homer per 9. And AT&T will continue to foster that kind of success. So I have no doubts that he will not maintain. I'm fully confident, I should say, that he will maintain to be difficult to hit home runs against. Not necessarily at a 0.3 best in baseball kind of clip, but around 0.4 to 0.6. Just about a half homer per 9 innings. So I think it'll be really good there. Now the bummer is this doesn't mean anything. The homer per 9. There's been dispute about this in the community about, no, it doesn't mean anything. It means something only in Sims, and yes, it does mean something in online play. And I got confirmation that it is only a Sim stat, which is unfortunate, but it's kind of the way it is. And another reason why you shouldn't really get too gung-ho about overalls, right? I understand that they're important, especially in the market. The little diamond, that's a seller, man. That's going to sell in the market. And having that shield change is always beneficial. But if it's artificially inflated by a great home run per 9 that's really only going to help you offline in a sim action, then maybe you want to be careful about overrating a guy like that. But either way, he needs to get his upgrade there, so I got him up to 74. That's really it. I can't move up the strikeouts per 9. They're not that great. And it's not because he can't do it, it's because he knows he doesn't have to. What's wrong? Why are you crying? That's Charlotte. If you've watched any of my other videos, you're familiar with Charlotte. She's super annoying. We got Johnny Cueto up to a 92. Let's see what Charlotte's up to. See, y'all, because the thing about Charlotte is sometimes it's just crying because she has to go out. But sometimes you just took her out like 5 minutes ago, so you're like, you don't have to do that. So usually it's just attention. Best YouTube video ever where the person gets up and goes and gets their dog because their dog is annoying. What's up? Alright, continuing. Now, if she cries in my lap, we got a different situation because that means she probably has to go out. But again, I can't understand why she would need to go out. Let's talk some Corey Kluber action because you know what? He's back on track in a big way lately, and I'm pleased about it. I'm a big Corey Kluber fan, but he's maddening. Man, is he maddening. I'm going to sit here and recommend an upgrade for him right now, tell you guys how great he's been pitching, and he's going to go out and give up freaking 8 earned in his next start for no good reason, for absolutely no good reason. However, he's due some upgrades. Even with some of the bad starts that he's had, when you add it all up, he's having a fantastic season, and I think it's time for him to probably move back toward 90. I don't know how much these upgrades are going to affect him, but they're pretty substantial. This first one is huge right now. Got him all the way up to a 75 on the hits per 9. He's at a career best 6.9 hits per 9 innings. I'm saying per 9 a lot because he has a 6.9. So it's a 6.9 hits per 9. It's his best hits per 9 in his career per 9. He's tied for 14th in the league with John Lackey and Jason Hamill. He ended last year at a 69 rating here. And so for him to be down to 63, and this is his career best year, I think it's time to move into the 70s, firmly into the 70s, obviously. Another one, I know, doesn't matter, sorry, but an 11-point gain nonetheless, because his .7 homers per 9 is top 20 in the league. He ended this category last year as a 77. I don't think he's really done anything to lose that. So frankly, they can go all the way back to that. But I think it might artificially inflate his overall too much, so they might kind of want to trickle back up toward that. We'll get him up to 73. His walks per 9 is a nice big gainer too, a 7-point boost. And when you're talking about once you pass 75, every little point it can be a bit more impactful in terms of changing their impact on the game. He's got a 1.9 hits per 9. That's fantastic. Anything under 2 is really, really good. Even like 2.5 can definitely live with. 3, if you're the right kind of strikeout power pitcher, that's fine. 3.5, we're starting to get into trouble. 4, whoa, it's tough. It's tough to live with 4 unless you're just filthy, like peak Francisco Liriano. Drew Pomeranz, I think, is toting a 4-something walk rate, but he doesn't give up any hits. And so it's a high walk rate, but it's not necessarily because he has no idea where it's going. It's because his stuff is so filthy that it can be tough to command. Either way, that's not the case with Kluber. He's always been a command and control kind of guy, in addition to having some power stuff, which is a lethal combination. Plus, he has a 5% mark. I went away from the per 9 just because I was looking at Fangraphs, and we do the percentages over there too. 5% since 2013. 8% is the league average. And when you're dealing with percentages that small, it's kind of tough to understand that just 3 percentage points, it's not just 3 percentage points. It's huge. It's a big difference. So a 5% mark is excellent. It needs to be recognized. And now we got Kluber feeling more like a real solid gold. And obviously he's the best gold you can be now here at 92 before you go into the diamond phase. And if he continues to pitch well, we're talking about a former Cy Young. So I know last year was a nightmare because he was like 6-19, and the win-loss record does not determine quality, but it was a nightmare from a fantasy standpoint because you really wanted at least 15 wins when you drafted him, and his ERA was not excellent. It wasn't as good as it was in the Cy Young year, but the skills were still amazing. So it's kind of like an up and down weird year, and I think the perception of Corey Kluber has fallen off, but he's been pitching very well this year. So let's get this upgrade going. All right, next up is, I'm going to leave it all in starting pitchers for now. I forgot who I was going to for a second. Cool life. Julio Teheran. Love Julio Teheran. Projected him for an upgrade a while back, and he got it. That's what you get here, guys. Good upgrades. He got upgraded on June 17th. Since then, now he's had a tiny sample since then. It's 2 weeks ago, barely. Not even, I should say. Friday will be 2 weeks ago. But he's allowed just 6 hits, no walks, and 14 strikeouts in 17 innings of work. So 2 really big starts is basically what it's been. But I think that this upgrade can also kind of be, it's not just for these 2 weeks. It's for, maybe they didn't want to jump him up all the way when they did it in the last upgrade, because sometimes you want these to be a little bit incremental because you don't want to overreact, and then you're bouncing guys back and forth. You know, oh, he was an 86 this week, now he's all the way down to an 80, and then he's back up to an 83. You know, you want to be crazy. You don't want to be crazy like that. So it's kind of an steadier thing. So I think this could also kind of include some of what he's done year to date. But I did, you know, that's why I told you guys what he's done since the upgrade. But I'm also going to focus a little bit on what he's done year to date, I should say. So hits per 9 up to 79, or excuse me, 75. He's at 5.9 this year, which is tremendous. It's tied for 4th in baseball with a little-known left-handed pitcher named Clayton Kershaw that you may have heard of. And I'm not suggesting that Julio Teheran is as good as Clayton Kershaw, but anytime that you can get in the mix of him, of Clayton Kershaw, with the statistic that you have, you're in good shape. Unless the statistic is the name Clayton, because I'm sure it's Clayton Buchholz, and he's nothing like Clayton Kershaw. But if you can be in the hits per 9 realm as Clayton Kershaw, you're doing something right. If you can be in the home run per 9, you're doing something right, and so on. So that's pretty impactful. It shows, it highlights, or I should say, at least accentuates how good Teheran's been this year in such a hidden way because he's on the stupid Braves. Sorry, Braves fans. It's just because they suck, not because I have any malice against the team. By the way, he also hasn't allowed more than 5 hits in a start since April, which is really good. Really, really good. His strikeouts per 9 and walks per 9, since they're in tandem, I'm leaving them in tandem. They're both solid. They're both at career bests. 8.4 for the Ks and 2.0 for the walks. So both just little 4-point bumps. Cute little 4-point bumps to get everything in symmetry here. 75. Isn't that cute? Happy little tree. I'm trying to channel my best Bob Ross. Beat the devil out of that right there. And then when we beat the devil out of this rating, we get him up to an 84. Oh, so close. I really wanted him to go gold. But can't fudge it. I think this is right. You know, actually, I don't know what his homer 9 is. If it's not, I think it's actually not great. Because, yeah, otherwise you could probably squeeze into gold there pretty easily. All right, next up is Danny Duffy for KC. Another guy who has recently been upgraded and yet says, nah, wasn't good enough. This is an interesting one, though, especially in terms of overall, because I am going to manipulate that homer per 9 again, and it's going to be on the downside. And so it could mitigate some of the upgrading that we do. So you want to be careful because or not be careful, but you just want to pay attention because if he gets the upgrades that I say, it might hurt him with that homer per 9, but who cares if it doesn't affect us? He might actually become a much better card even if he stays at his same rating or maybe goes up a point. But let's go ahead and see. Since his upgrade, he's allowed 10 hits, 4 walks, 16 strikeouts in 12 and 2/3 innings. So I got to get the K9 cooking here up to 80. He's just been great this year. He's really been missing bats. He's got a 10.7. That's 8th best in baseball with a minimum of 60 innings. I had to bring the threshold down, obviously, because he hasn't been pitching as a starter all year. He's got a 16% swinging strike rate. That's amazing. And what that does is it backs up the K per 9 here. We're not just seeing a fluke strikeout rate. We're seeing a guy who's dominating batters and getting a lot of swings and misses, which is going to bring the strikeouts. By the way, if you bring it down to a minimum of 60 innings, his 15.66% swinging strike rate, I rounded to 16, is second to Clayton Kershaw, who's at 16.1%. And again, I don't give a good goddamn what stat it is in baseball. If you can be a pitching stat, because I don't care if you're tied with him in hits, but any pitching stat that you can be in the realm of Clayton Kershaw, you're doing something extremely right. However, this is where it starts to sting. because I gotta push it way down. And I say sting again from an overall standpoint. It's artificial, guys. We don't want to get too hung up on it. It's not going to impact our games. That is straight from the devs. We finally put some rest to the notion. I know some of you already knew that. And you're saying you should just believe me. I say, I appeal to authority again. Maybe I'm learning after some mistakes, not to appeal to authority when it's this authority here. I didn't think they would make a stat that has no relevance in online play. That bums me out. It really does. Because I think there's probably an easy way to incorporate it, especially with as many home runs as we've seen this year. It'd be nice if some guys could actually stifle them. Anyway, let's see what that does. It pumps him from an 82, hopefully up, but it certainly didn't turn him up. Boom. Actually, it's a -1 to 79. But I still consider it an upgrade because if you take out that middle column there, and obviously I covered it, you guys can't see what I'm doing, but you get the point. If you eliminate that middle column, how's that not a perfectly solid silver slugger? Silver stud, I should say. It's not a slugger. So I really think we could see something like this, though, because those homers per 9, he's got 1.5. 1.5 homers per 9 is bad, okay? Can't be having that. All right, let's move over to the Dodgers. Their young phenom, Julio Urias, came up with much acclaim. Had that really tough start against the Mets to kind of open his career. His second start wasn't great. You're like, dang. Maybe he's just not ready yet. But it's 2 starts, and that's why we always say, it's small sample. Don't just make extrapolations based off of that. They were bad starts. He certainly wasn't competitive in those starts. But it doesn't mean that he's not capable of being competitive at the major league level yet. And he's now showing that in his last 5. Let's actually talk about it. I got his strikeout rate up to 78. They got him at 67 right now. He's got 11.2 as a major leaguer. That's elite. He had 10.5 as a minor leaguer. So I bumped it all the way up to 78. They've moved some of these rookies up in short order to give them substantial numbers. You look at Michael Fulmer, he's got a 75. He's got something like a strikeout per inning. We're talking about 11.2 with Urias. And while it is a small sample, we have the minor leagues to back it up as well. The one thing that he was going to be able to do when he came up was strike out batters. Hits per 9, bump it up to 62. He's getting there. He's at 7.1 in his last 5 starts. He was at 15.2 in his first 2. So they can move this up more if they really kind of look at those as 2 separate chunks and not necessarily throw out the first 2, but just I wouldn't weigh them too heavily because we know that it's kind of a reason that he sucked, right? I don't know. I'm a little bit torn, because I kind of do want to throw them out, but at the same time I understand that they happened, and it doesn't mean that there won't be more that happen. That's just kind of the ebbs and flows of a season, and when it happens to be your first 2 starts ever, we start to make assumptions about a player. Anyway, definitely needs an upgrade. It could go as high as I'd say 67, 68, but I'll go with 62 right now. I'll be incremental about it. Now this is another one where he has to get a downgrade here that might actually preclude him from getting much of an overall upgrade. Because I can't, in good conscience, leave him at a 79 when he's averaging 4 2/3 innings per start. He's got to go down to a 72 right now. And he has too many walks and too many homers allowed to really move those numbers too. Let's see what this does. Boom, I got him 2 points, and not cost him. He went up to a 77, so not quite. And I don't know if they ever do this, and I don't know if you guys would find this underhanded or not. I don't think I really would, but because we are so overall focused, would they, and I say fudge it, and that has a bad connotation because it sounds like they're doing something duplicitous. And again, I'm not trying to suggest that they should, but would they maybe if they wanted him to be that silver and they didn't have to do anything that was like so far like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. That's not accurate to his player. We don't know that his defense is below average right now. What if they're just like, no, it's like a 53. It's like, okay. Can they get him to 78? That wouldn't be enough. I'll try again. You don't want to go too crazy because it's not like he's Gold Glove either. We don't really know is the point. So then if they moved it up to 55, then all of a sudden you got him there. Or maybe they just say, you know what? Maybe I'll move that back down. What was that? 48. But then they're like, we don't want to go too hard on the stamina. We'll just move it down from 79 to 74. Then what does that do? Maybe that saves him. No, that wouldn't cut it. 75. My point is, I think that there it goes. So I'm putting 77 in the book because those are the numbers that I gave y'all. Those are the numbers that I'm standing by. But if they wanted him as a silver, A, I could understand it and I'd be okay with it. And B, I don't think anything I did there would be like, oh my God, I can't believe they, tweaked this player just to get him as a silver. I feel like he kind of deserves to be a silver. He's an elite prospect, one of the best in the game. We saw how quickly Michael Fulmer moved when he started pitching well. I keep using him as an example, but that's one of the prime examples. We saw it last year too. Noah Syndergaard really moved up. There were some other pitchers that, if they pitch well and if you got the prospect status to back it up, I think they should be especially ready to move. And I think we're seeing that Urias is ready to pitch, at least in 5-inning spurts, 2 times through the lineup right now. But that's why that stamina needs to be down. So again, we're going 77. That's our official number on him. But I wouldn't be surprised if they said that they wanted to reward his good play with being a silver. Next up is a really interesting one. I actually think that we could get a big upgrade here for Trevor Bauer. Wait, he's a 76? Oh, I swear it said 75 on Daddy Leagues. But as I said I think I had that same issue with Chris Bryant. What's more likely to be true? That the computer website messed up or that I'm a dummy? That's a little halftime. We're halfway home. All right. Trevor Bauer. I've used this joke, for lack of a better word. I don't even think it's a joke. Just kind of an analogy on the podcast a few times now. So I'm not bringing you guys the fresh, quote unquote, humor, but I've stepped on this rake before. I've bought into Trevor Bauer on a hot streak, gotten excited because of his prospect pedigree and what he can bring to the table when he's on, and the fact that he's a cerebral pitcher. That really, it interests me when guys are really thinking about their craft. So I'm predisposed to liking Trevor Bauer. So I'm like, this finally he's ready. Boom, you step on the rake, get hit square in the face, and you're back to square one. But he's been great this year. He really has. And so I'm buying into it a little bit more. Now, he hasn't allowed more than 4 earned runs in any start this year. And honestly, I don't think he's allowed more than 4 unearned runs either. Runs total. So I think I put the earned runs there because those are the ones that matter for the ERA, and thus for fantasy baseball and for the perception of how he'll be viewed in this game. But he hasn't even allowed 4 runs in a game with a couple unearned. Now in June, oh, by the way, I should mention, he did do that 10 times last year. He had 10 different starts where he allowed more than 4 earned runs. Yikes. In June, he's been beasting out of his mind. 6 hits per 9, 8.7 Ks per 9, 2.4 walks per 9, which is the real key for him because walks have always been problematic for Trevor Bauer, as you probably can tell by that 44 walks per 9. And 0.4 homers. He's been incredible, so let's get to the upgrades. 76 for his hits per 9. He's been a good hits per 9 guy for a while now. Good, dating back to last year, he has a 7.7, and he's 23rd this year. You're top 25 in hits per 9 among qualified starters. That's pretty good. There's usually about 100 qualified starters, so you're right there in that top 25%. And again, he's been doing it since last year. His K per 9 is ready for a little boost as well. I got it up to 73. Not crazy. He's at 8.4 this year. He's at 8.4 for his career, and he's at 8.6 since the start of last year. He's always been a solid strikeout guy because he's got that swing and miss stuff. Now, there are times where he gets too deep on pitches, and I think he has to kind of go away from the strikeouts because they can be some of those labored counts that he gets into because he's just almost wearing the batter down when maybe they think they're doing that to him. He's in these deep 7, 8, 10 pitch at bats, getting the strikeout. but it's not worth it. It ends up not being worth it because then you add in some of those walks. Those are always deep at bat, or not always, but a lot of times those are deep at bats, and he builds up that pitch count, and it's just problematic. And so I think he's aiming to be a bit more efficient this year. I am going to bump the BB per 9. He's at a career best 3.0. League average is 3.2. So we'll give him a couple ticks above league average for this year. And, you know, that one's on a wire, right? If he goes back to his old ways, starts walking 4 or 5 per game, we shoot that one back down right away. His homer per 9, again, irrelevant, but it's going to move the overall, and it deserves a big boost. He's at 0.7, and he's tied for the 5th lowest. And I explained this on yesterday's video. When I say, like, the 5th lowest, that means there's a buttload of ties. Basically, there are 20 pitchers with a 0.7 or better, which means in this case lower, homer per 9. So he's basically in the top 20, but it's the 7th, tied for the 7th lowest total. And let's see what that does. Whoops. Did I say 69? Yeah. That moves Trevor Bauer all the way up to an 82. Either way, there's almost no way he doesn't get silver, right? Because he's at 76. Even if he doesn't get all these upgrades, he's moving up. That's a pretty nice card right there. If you're really good at commanding pitches with anybody, that's a good card. For sure. This is another interesting one that we're going to do here, and it might not even be an upgrade because he has to get hit elsewhere, but I want to acknowledge some of the good stuff that Robbie Ray's been able to do. So we're going to jump right in. His K9, moving up to 74. He's at a career best 10.4 K per 9. But we got to move this homer per 9 way down. He's horrific. All the way down to 46. He had a 1.6 homers per 9 in 2014. He had 0.6 last year and 1.3 this year. Which of those is the outlier? Obviously last year. Well, they still have to count it. He still did it for like 160 innings. But he allowed so much hard contact last year and somehow avoided home run trouble that I kind of saw this regression coming here. It just doesn't surprise me. He can be a little bit too in the zone with his stuff, which helps him get the strikeouts, but it also leaves him prone to big homers. 1.2 is league average, and he's at 1.6. That's really bad. He's really got to be below 50. If we're going to say 50 is league average, he's got to be below that. His BB per 9 also has to go down. So this is not going to end up being an upgrade. He's at 3.6 this year. He's at 3.5 for his career, and the league average is 3.2. I can't, in good conscience, leave him at something over 50. So he gets his strikeout acknowledgement, but I don't think this is an upgrade. 71. So it's actually minus 3 points. And the reason I brought him up is because I think it's probably just been Marcos, but he'd been asked about, like, where's his upgrade? And, well, I'll do it for you, but sometimes it ain't good. And that's the most proper English that you can find. It ain't good. That's what happens when you think you're getting an upgrade and then you get a downgrade. You just switch into that accent. Like, that ain't good. All right, we got 3 more guys. These are young guys. If you noticed yesterday and today, the videos have been going in order. So starting with the highest rated guys all the way down. So these are some rookies. You know, for those of you that are trying to get on that long grind, maybe on some guys who might be paying off later in summer. If you don't love this upgrade now, and you know, like, I don't really want to sell them just when they go to, you know, upper bronze or low silver. I want to hang on. Well, this is the beginning stages. All right, now I think Daddy League's had a few. Oh wait, it's not Daniel Norris. That's right. This is not a young guy. Scratch that part about it. The last 2 are young guys. This is not a young guy. This next one is a guy that I can't stand, but he keeps pitching well, so I had to acknowledge stupid Bud Norris. See, I don't have bias. I will even acknowledge guys I don't really like. So, it's been a great run, okay? He's joined the rotation on June 4th. He's got 6.5 hits per 9, 8.9 Ks per 9, 2.5 walks, and no home runs allowed. So you know what? I'm just giving him a 5 boost everywhere on the 4 per 9s. That's it. I'm not gonna go crazy, and I'm not gonna get too detailed on it because, frankly, I don't necessarily believe it. His 11% swinging strike rate is good, but he has a career 10%, so that's not really different. Now, the big difference that he does have that could maybe sustain his improved walk rate is he has a 69% first pitch strike rate, which is excellent. He has a career 59% mark, so he's way above that. But he's got 8.9 Ks and 2.5 walks, I told you guys, since he joined the rotation. His career marks are 8.2 and 3.5. So the walks, again, that's a big gain, but this is not a young guy. So, and then homers, 6.5 hits, 0 homers. His career 9.1 and 1.1. I'm just acknowledging a hot stretch here. There's no velo boost. There's no pitch mix changes. There's nothing in the actual numbers that say there's some great viable changes. But I don't think it's bad to just give him these upgrades here for the way he's pitching. Maybe he's found something with the arsenal that he already had that is allowing him to sustain some success. The success itself has been supported by his numbers. I just don't think it's a long-term situation. And it gets him up to 75. Good for him, huh? Good for you, bud. Budrick Norris III. Now these are 2 rookies. See, I thought it was Daniel Norris. That's why I was like, oh, we got 3 rookies, blah, 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 blah. All right, let's go out to Oakland. Some of you might not have even heard of this guy. And listen, I don't blame you. Peter Clem. I just wish I had done an upgrade for him just because his name's Peter Clem. What if it was Pete Clem? It's actually Daniel Mengden. This guy, they did the best they could with his mustache. He's got a total interesting mustache. So if you like that kind of stuff, you should go check him out. Just Google him. It's pretty funny. All right, so we're dealing with small samples here, but I'm trying to, acknowledge, again, with these rookies, they've been acknowledging these guys pretty quick. 20-something innings in, if they're really putting up big numbers that are supported, they'll go with them. So he's got K9 upgrade coming. Whoops, did I upgrade his stamina? I don't know. Did I upgrade it? I'll just leave it at 75. Who cares? I didn't mean to touch it. 66 K9. That's for his 9.1 strikeouts per 9 and a 10% swinging strike rate. And he had a 9.0 strikeouts per 9 in the minors, right? So he's missing a bat per inning in the minors, and he's bringing the same thing to the majors right now. So that deserves a boost for sure. His walk rate, straight 50. Frankly, I'm not sure why it was so low. He's at 3.2, which is average, but he was at 2.5 in the minors. So I don't know why it would be so low to start, but either way. Hits per 9, got to bump that up a decent bit to 65. He's got 7.4 hits per 9, but it is a small sample. I'm freely acknowledging that. But minor leagues, he was at 7.7. So he really is pretty good at doing that. And then a 265 BABIP, that's probably going to come up. 265 is pretty darn low, but he does show some deception. He has a really interesting arsenal. He's pitched really well. He's got a great home ballpark to stifle outs on balls in play. So I don't know. I'm buying it. I'm buying a lot of what he's got going on. I didn't touch the homers per 9 right now because I don't think there's much to mess with. So this is not going to move him into silver. I don't even know if it moves him into what's bronze. Where does bronze start? 73. I think that is bronze, right? It's 72 bronze. But he's one to watch, right? It's a long-term one. And if he keeps going like this, you can see these numbers jumping really quickly. Obviously, there's a lot of room to gain for him. All right, our final one is kind of an interesting one for me because it can easily blow up in our faces pretty quickly because of his crazy home ballpark. Hey, I used the wheel thing right for once. Yeah, take another drink. I had to record the podcast today too. Just a lot of talking. 69 and up is a bronze. Thank you, St. Louis Blues fan. So he should get it. All right. Next up is a guy you might not be all that familiar with, especially because they have so many flippin' Tylers. I'm just going to go in their clubhouse and yell Tyler. And I'll see Matzik, and Chatwood, and Anderson turn back at me. And Anderson's the only one I'm interested in talking to right now because he's beasting out. Now, he's an older rookie. I think you guys saw there is 26. Actually, is he 26? I thought he was 24. Huh. If he's 26, that's interesting. 26. Anyway, doesn't really change how I feel, but I thought he was 24. So he blitzed through the minors this year. He didn't pitch a lot there. It was only 30 and 2/3 innings, but he did a little stop at high A, did a stop at double A, did a stop at triple A, and he had 8.8 strikeouts, 3.8 walks, 6.8 hits, and .3 homers. Good for a 2.35 ERA and 1.17 WHIP. So he did pretty well. Now, we gotta get into these major league numbers because he needs a huge strikeout upgrade. He has 9.1 strikeouts per nine as a major leaguer. Anything over 9, 9 or better, that's a strikeout per inning. That's good. That's where you want to be, especially in Coors. The more you can miss, the better. Obviously, contact is bad. Okay. He's improved yearly in the minors with his strikeout rate. He has an 11% swinging strike rate as a major leaguer. That's very healthy, and it backs up what he's doing on the mound. His walk rate needs to go way up. See, now, Mengden was at a 38 as well. I think they default every rookie to 38. And I don't think that's right because you have minor league data to go on. You can get a semblance. If you got a guy that's walking 2 or fewer per 9 throughout his whole way up, the one thing he's going to do is not walk guys when he comes up. He might get his butt kicked. He might give up way too many hits. He might be one of those guys that just fills up the zone way too much with very hittable pitches. But in the minors, he can get away with it. But you still have a better walk rate than 3.8. By the way, right now, Tyler Anderson has a 1.5 walk rate. That's elite. That's probably not gonna hold, but it's backed by a 64% first pitch strike rate, which is really good. He was at 2.7 in the minors. Either way, he's always been good with walks. All right, next up, the ever important homers per 9. He hasn't given up one yet, so I'm moving it up to 65, but I don't want to go crazy with it. Here's the thing, though. He's got a .5 in the minors, 0.5 homers per 9, and he has an elite ground ball rate, which we're going to get into more. So I don't know. I don't think that he necessarily, that we're overreacting by doing this. Granted, it doesn't matter, but it does for us in gameplay. It matters for overall. Now, I left his homers per 9 flat because he has a 9.2 hits per 9. I should say hits per 9, not homers per 9. I left that flat. He's got a high batting average on balls in play. It's 357, but it's going to remain high for 2 reasons. The elite ground ball rate and the fact that he plays in Coors. Coors, you can get a lot of hits. That's the one thing about it, even more so than the homers. The outfield is huge, and it's conducive to hits. Ground ball rate, that's usually going to have more hits than somebody who has a lot of fly balls, right? Because ground balls can skitter through the infield. They can be well hit. Ground ball. Not every ground ball is an automatic out. So I just left his hits flat. However, I did upgrade something here that, again, because they don't always focus on it, I think I'm going to send a note over, just a little bug in their ear about improving his break on everything, because his ground ball rate is so good that's the best way that you can really show it is give him some filthy break that's going to induce those ground balls. So I moved this up to a 65. I moved his 2-seamer up to a 60. Actually, I got a 62 here. I moved his slider up to a 60. Oh, here, I should be telling you this information to give you a reason as to why I'm moving it up so high. So, going back, on the 4-seamer, he allows a 72% ground ball rate. That's obscene. On his 2-seamer, it's 75%. On his slider, it's 60%, and on his changeup, it's 50%. Those are all elite. All of his pitches get an obscene, well, actually the 50% is not elite. It's good, it's not elite. Anything above 60 is elite with a ground ball rate. And he gets great ground ball rate on everything. So I think his break really needs to be up there. Now, I've moved him up to a 76, and that's going to be too high. Maybe I moved those breaks up a little bit too much. So I'm going to actually alter that because there's no way he's getting a 10-point upgrade, especially if he is in fact 26. So let's tone it down a little bit. I don't remember. I think that was actually already kind of high, but I'll move this back down to 50. Move that down to 45. I'll move that to 50. I still lose him at 76. What the heck? Is it the attributes that I gave him? That's not a 76, is it? Had to be the break. No? I don't know. That's kind of crazy. What if I just move this back down to 50? Not that forcing breaks should really matter. I'm moving to a 75. Maybe it is. As it, here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna reload and do his without the breaks and see what that does. But they really need to edit his break because he has a ridiculous ground ball rate. It's at 62%. That's so good, and that really helps. All right, what were these again? K9. Now that's a pretty big jump. I'm gonna move it to 69. Yeah, I stand by that. Maybe 69 is too high. I don't know. We'll see. BB per 9. That got the big jump. But I think that one deserved a big jump for sure. Because he's always had good walk rates. The homer per 9 was up to 65. Hits per 9 was flat. And so what does that do? Okay, that's what did it. It wasn't even the break. The break doesn't even really matter. Wow. That surprises me. I didn't think that those were that substantial of upgrades to get them all the way up to a 7. I know it's still a bronze, so maybe I'm just freaking out too much. Maybe when you're down at a 66, it's easy to move up. I'm gonna go with the 75. I'm just gonna leave them at that 75 there. And so that's gonna do it for the upgrades this week on pitchers. I'll go ahead and review them for you guys. And I did see somebody in the Twitch chat ask about Greinke. I put Greinke back to a diamond last week, so I stand by that. Check out the videos on YouTube for always good to review them. You can kind of skip through, see the guys. Once you realize, okay, this is a guy who's been upgraded, skip to the next one. Maybe I should start time coding them so you guys can really just go right to them. We'll see if I'm able to do that. No promises on that. But Johnny Cueto, 91 to 92. Corey Kluber, 87 to 92. Julio Teheran, 81 to 84. Danny Duffy, 80 to 79, downgrade, except it's because of his homer per 9 and everything else is good to go, so it's still an upgrade in my book. Julio Urias, 75 to 77. Trevor Bauer, 76 to 82. Robbie Ray, 74